What's going on, everybody? Chrome on Rust here. We're going to be taking a look at a hardcore Demon Hunter build, one that is not going to require you to use Unity rings, and you're going to be able to complete GRift level 30. Now, the one that you're seeing in the background is definitely one of the easier rifts, but you're going to see me take some damage, sitting at around 18.6 million toughness, or exactly 18.6 million toughness, as you're able to take hits in GRift level 30, and you're going to be doing just fine as long as you're playing smart and you're aware of your surroundings, you're paying attention to the elite packs. You know, you could probably die with this much toughness in Torment 6, so saying you can go up to GRift level 30, you know, you just got to be aware. Just be aware of your surroundings. You're going to be able to take hits. It's just the typical Demon Hunter M6 set build that we're going to be taking a look at. It's the 6-piece set bonus is what is really strong about this build. Sentries cast your equipped hatred spender. So looking at the gear or the skills now, we're going to be using sentries with polar stations. Now I'm going to get into polar stations and Spitfire rockets or Spitfire turrets, because I know those are, it's kind of debated a little bit on which one is better, but elemental arrow, multi-shot, and cluster arrow are all going to be shot from our sentries. So getting into the sentries now, polar station or Spitfire turrets. Players like to use the Spitfire turrets because it gives you additional rockets. The turrets will also fire homing rockets at random nearby enemies for 120% weapon damage. Now, as I said, we are a cold-based build. Even though Spitfire turrets is going to be giving you increased damage most of the time. If you're using Tasker and Theos, you're going to be having a lot more shots off from your sentries, because the faster your attack speed, the faster you're going to be able to attack, as long as you surpass one of the breakpoint thresholds, which I'm going to be getting into a little bit later. You're going to have more constant uptime because your sentries are going to be shooting out elemental arrow, which chills enemies for 60% for 1 second. But if you're not shooting really fast, or your sentries are not shooting really fast, polar stations is going to give you a big AoE that is going to be chilling the mobs instantaneously. And as long as they're in that radius, they're going to be taking additional damage, because we're going to be using Call of the Week, increased damage against slowed or chilled enemies by 20%. In addition to that, now legendary gems are out, and we're going to be also using Bane of the Trapped, increased damage against enemies under the effects of control impairing effects, excuse me. So as long as they're control impaired, you're going to be gaining increased damage, which means chilled or slowed, as well as we just saw, the Call of the Week, slow or chilled monsters. Elemental arrow, when you're shooting really fast, it's going to give you pretty much permanent uptime for those two, but when you're attacking slower, polar stations is going to give you more of a constant uptime. Maybe you're going to be losing a little bit of damage, but it being in hardcore, just throwing out huge caltrops like you see here, anything that runs in this area is going to be getting slowed. It's really nice. Try the two, see which one that you like more. Polar stations allows you to play a little bit, I want to say, more reckless, allowing you to chill monsters instantly, kind of vault around them and not have to worry about them not being chilled. Now, elemental arrow, as I said, very strong. It's going to be chilling the monsters for you, because the sentries only have a certain, radius on the polar station, the little AoE that you saw around it. Elemental arrow is going to be proccing the Call of the Week and the Bane of the Trapped for you when they are outside of that radius. Multi-shot with arsenal. Once again, this is a fire skill. The reason being is this is a cold-based build, but this is like a rocket-based build, and it's something that I really would like to see the Diablo devs do with other classes, not just, we're always using cold skills because we have cold gear, maybe because we're using a passive like ballistics, increased damage of rockets by 100%. So we look back over at multi-shot. Every time you fire, launch 3 rockets at nearby enemies that each deal 300% weapon damage as fire. Well, that is actually going to be dealing now 600% weapon damage as fire. So it's a pretty significant buff, and even though this is fire, you want to be running the fire rune and not the cold rune. You're going to be getting a good chunk of more damage out of it for sure. I've tested between the two. Multi-shot with arsenal, very strong. That's the one that you're going to be wanting to use. The next one here, cluster arrow with maelstrom. Once again, more rockets, very strong, and this is why we're going cold for the most part. This is a very high damaging ability. We're buffing this through our gear that I'm going to be getting into a little bit later, and through the elemental type that we're going on our gear as well. So cluster arrow, Fire a cluster of arrows that explodes for 550% weapon damage as cold and releases up to 5 rockets. That's going to be dealing 450% weapon damage as cold, increasing that to 900% weapon damage as cold because of the ballistics passive. The last part of the skill reads, you gain 1% life per enemy hit. This is not going to be triggered from your sentries. If this was, you'd be gaining so much life back. It'd be very, very overpowered. So sentries are not going to be giving you the life on hit from the cluster arrow. Now the last two skills here, companion, the 4-piece set bonus on the Marauder set is going to be companion calls all companion types to your side. So while we are using the companion, it doesn't matter if we're using the wolf, the ferret, the boar, the bat, the spider, you're going to be getting benefit from them all. You're going to be getting all their actives. When you call the wolf, you're going to be getting the increased damage. You're going to be getting the increased pickup radius from the ferrets when you use your active, whether any of these that you're using. Doesn't matter which one you use, they're all really strong. Know what all of them do, like the bat companion here. If you're at full, I was going to say fury, if you're at full hatred, you want to make sure that maybe you throw out a cluster arrow, because cluster arrow is going to drop a significant amount of your hatred, and then you're about to use your bat, which is going to give you your hatred right back. You know, if you're going for that wolf buff and you're at full hatred, just know that you're going to be getting some hatred in addition to that. So read through these, see what they all do, because it is valuable to know. Vault with tumble, you're going to be needing some form of mobility. This being in hardcore, you're going to need some form of mobility. I prefer to use the tumble rune on here, so that way I can vault twice for 12 discipline instead of vaulting twice for 16 discipline. It's just a little bit of reduced cost on there. You could go with one of the other skills, but vault is very, very strong. The other skills that I would be talking, or other skill I guess I'd be talking about, would be the smoke screen. Smoke screen, you could use displacement. That's going to be increase your movement speed by 100%. This is only a 1 second duration, and then you can see that it costs 14 discipline, where I can vault twice for only 12 discipline. It costs quite a bit. Just be wary if you are using smokescreen. I definitely prefer to use vault, and I see quite a people doing that as well. Now going over the passives, perfectionist, you probably don't have to use perfectionist. It's just going to be giving you additional armor and additional resistances. Call of the week, mandatory. Awareness, being hardcore, this is your cheat death passive. If this was not around, this demon hunter would already be dead. Ballistics, once again mandatory. So these three right here I would not play with. Just leave them alone. The fourth one, you definitely don't need to be running perfectionist in all situations. If I were not, I'd be using custom engineering. It's going to increase the number of sentries that you're going to be able to have out, as well as increase the duration of them. Or steady aim. Steady aim just for increased damage, as long as there's no mobs within 10 yards, which 10 yards is very small. It's going to be increasing all damage by 20%. So those are the skills. That was what I definitely recommend you going ahead and trying out. Going over the gear here now. Marauder 6-piece set bonus, as I said, you have to have this. I am using 5 pieces of it because I'm using the Royal Ring of Grandeur, just reducing the requirement of the set pieces that I need. So using the helmet, the chest, the pants, the boots, and the gloves. And in the slot that would be another Marauder's piece is actually Aughilds. Aughilds is very, very strong. The 2-piece set bonus, it's strong. The 3-piece set bonus is strong. And as I said, I'm using the Royal Ring, so only equipping 2 pieces, the bracers and the shoulders, getting the 3-piece set bonus from this. In addition to that, I'm not only using just 2 sets, I'm actually using 3 sets, using the Blackthorns as well, giving us more vitality, more increased damage against elites, and more reduced damage against elites. Using the 3 sets together in combination in hardcore has been really, really nice. I've been very, very tough. Toughness has been great. I've been able to play reckless. I've been able to find myself in situations where I thought I was dead and I came out alive. So I don't necessarily run this much toughness all the time, but you know, when you're pushing the higher, greater rifts and you're trying to see where your gear is at, just stack the toughness, see how you do, make sure that you don't die, and you're going to be doing all right. So Aughilds, really strong. Blackthorns, amulet, and belt, also very strong. On the amulet, I would prefer to have cold skills deal damage on there instead of dexterity, especially dexterity being a very low amount. But this is the Blackthorns that I have for now. The 2 and the 3-piece set bonus, very, very strong, so not going to swap it out for any of the other amulets that I have. Now on chest and on the bracers, you can get really, really strong secondaries on there. You can actually get reduced damage from ranged attacks, and you can get reduced damage from melee attacks. These are both secondary stats, and you can get them on the bracers and on the chest armor. Elites deal melee attacks, elites deal ranged attacks, white monsters deal ranged attacks, white monsters deal melee attacks. It is really, really good to have an additional way to mitigate damage other than just through all resistance and through, well, your armor and vitality. Stacking elite damage reduction, stacking the reduced damage from melee and ranged, really, really strong. Just want to throw that out there. It's a little bit stronger than I thought it was going to be. Getting into the hardcore scene has been a ton of fun. Now on the pants, I would prefer to have all resistance here. Once again, just picking up good secondaries in hardcore, you definitely want to be doing that. Now for the items that are kind of different here, I'm using the Royal Ring, as I said. You want to re-roll the life on hit for a socket and try to find one with crit hit damage if you can. Crit hit chance is also a very acceptable option, or just whatever you're going to be able to use for that particular time. But just know that Demon Hunters are very crit hit damage starved. They have a ton of crit hit chance, but they're lacking in the crit hit damage. That's why the Witching Hour, and for other reasons, is very strong for the Demon Hunter. Stone to Jordan, not using a Unity ring or anything like that. That is going to be definitely the other ring that you're going to be wanting to use. Reroll the dexterity if you get crit chance or a crit hit damage on roll on there, as long as they're decent. You know, if they're a really bad roll, you want the sockets. Sockets are very, very strong. The 3 legendary gems that I am using: Bane of the Trapped, Bane of the Powerful, and the Enforcer, increasing damage of your pets by a certain percentage when you level them up. When I completed the Greater Rift level 30, all of these were level 31. Now for the weapon, Atreyus are going to be very strong. They drop pretty often. They get cold skills, deal damage on there. The other 2 rolls that you're going to be wanting is dexterity and damage. Percent damage and dexterity is what you're going to be looking for. And then if you have Ramalandis, you're going to be able to get all those stats. If not, I would just wait, I guess. Depending on the bow that you get, you're just going to have to kind of do a little bit of research and see if the bow that you're using is going to be good enough for throwing a Ramalandis on there. Them being pretty rare. I actually didn't find this Ramalandis. I was playing with a buddy of mine, and he was nice enough to give me one because he had one left in his stash. So thank you for that. That was very kind of you. The other item here is going to be the Bombardier's Rucksack. You want sentry damage. Like, sentry damage is pretty much almost mandatory, just like crit chance is mandatory. You want sentry damage on your quiver, on your chest, and on your shoulders. But on your helmet and on your boots, you're going to be looking to pick up cluster arrow damage. Now, sacrificing for cluster arrow damage on your helmet is a pretty big sacrifice, being able to get up to 750 vitality, but it's something that I think I would want to do. It's a pretty significant damage increase. Sacrificing the vitality just means you got to play a little bit safer, be a little bit more cautious, and I'm actually don't have perfect vitality rolls everywhere. Like on my Bombardier's Rucksack, socket is okay because I can put an all-res gem in there, but ideally I'd want either just vitality. I'd want 750 vitality on here, and this would be a pretty good Bombardier's Rucksack. So those are the items there, sitting at a tremendously high all resistance mark, sitting at a very good armor mark. I have been going into, well, let's go into the Paragon points here. You're going to be getting an additional 10% movement speed from your ferrets, so you're only going to be needing 15% from your Paragon points if you have no movement speed on your gear. 25% is the cap from gear and Paragon points. Core points, vitality, or dexterity. I really probably didn't need a vitality. As you saw in the background, everything was dying pretty fast. The Rift was easy, but even when I was getting hit, I just had a ton of survivability. So I probably could have went for dexterity and upped the damage. Offensive, crit chance and crit hit damage. Go for the crit hit damage first, unless you just for some reason are just getting started and you are low on the crit hit chance. And then you could see yourself going with crit hit chance first. And you can see that I have 8 points in attack speed. The reason being is sentries have an attack speed breakpoint, or they have multiple attack speed breakpoints, I should say. So if I were to get an additional 3 attack speed, if I were to get an additional 5 attack speed, if I were to get an additional 6 attack speed, I would not actually be attacking any faster with my sentries. So that is the reason that I'm sitting at the 1.60%. To find this out, I'm going to throw these numbers up on the screen. These are the numbers that you want to surpass if you want to be attacking slightly faster or a significant amount faster, depending on the breakpoint that you're hitting. So if you're just slightly below one of these, you really want to try to acquire more attack speed on your gear or get the attack speed through your Paragon points. Attacking just getting a few points of attack speed can mean hitting the next breakpoint, and that is going to be very strong for your sentries. So crit hit damage, crit hit chance, but make sure that you hit one of these breakpoints. I'm probably going to be having a video going into just breakpoints and things like that for any players who are curious, so don't be worried about that. I'll get to it when I get to it. I shouldn't say it's going to be out soon or anything like that, but it's probably one of the videos that I'm going to be doing next, or one close here. Okay, talking about the last thing here, utility. As we break down, resource cost reduction first, then life on hit. But the thing to note is area damage and life on hit are both not procced from your sentries. So you do not get an area damage, or you do not get the life on hit bonus. In softcore, I would definitely find myself running area damage, but in hardcore, having the life on hit, because you do want to be shooting sometimes just for efficiency's sake, having the life on hit is the way that I have been going. So that's pretty much it for me. I'm Chrome on ROS for Core Expert Gaming. Finally getting into the hardcore scene. It has been quite a bit of fun. I actually did play Diablo 2 exclusively hardcore, but you know, we'll see how things go. As for now though, have been enjoying it. I'm out of here, and you all, as always, have a great day. So I was going to end the video here, but you saw the footage in the background. We lost a character in the Nasty Old Vikings, Deathstrike. Deathstrike has meant a lot to the Nasty Old Vikings, has been a part of it for many, many years, way before Diablo 3. And the way that we play hardcore is you create a hardcore character once, and once it's dead, that's it. Normally I run with Mortal Kombat characters. Currently I'm using the character Jade. When Jade dies, you know, I can't use that Mortal Kombat character anymore. They're just dead forever. So we decided to, me and Yarlith and I, we decided to create hardcore characters, push for the tier level 30 conquest. Unfortunately, we had a loss. Death Dealer, you know, Deathstrike's counterpart, ended up dying, pushing for the tier 30, lost in a very valorous manner, and then, you know, just the next day decided to level another character, and Deathstrike still being alive, you know, couple days later, the Malthael kill was still up. We had the gear to, you know, kind of T6, and we decided we're going to go for it. You know, we had the Marauder set, which is really all you need, you know, other than survivability was extremely low. We decided to do the Malthael conquest, as you saw and are seeing in the background as I just went ahead and put it on repeat. So, you know, we did the conquest. At the very last second, you're going to be seeing Deathstrike died. So Death Dealer and Deathstrike can no longer be created. And I actually want to say the significance of this, since we are actually talking about hardcore in this video. If you've been watching in the background, our buff rotation was very poor. The buff rotation coming from the companion, which gives you 30% damage boost. If we would have been slightly better in pushing and making sure that we kept our damage buff up, it was like a 1 second difference between life or death. The buffs really matter. You need to make sure that you're rotating your skills in a very proper fashion. Unfortunately for us, we killed Deathstrike. It hurts and pains me that we killed Deathstrike, but Deathstrike is dead, and when this recording happened, he said if I don't give him a sweet ending and I show this footage on the channel, well, you know, it's going to be pretty upset. So this is your sweet ending. I hope you enjoyed it. Deathstrike, Death Dealer, rest in peace. September 2014 to, well, September 2014. Chrome on ROS for Core Expert Gaming. A sad moment for Nasty Old Vikings, but we got the conquest. Like, subscribe if you have not. I'm out here, and you all have a great day. I don't know.
Potions up.
Left side, left side, left side, left side.
Oh, dude.